How can salespeople and people that interact with customers provide even more value to them? Of course, they provide great value to the organization itself, but how can they and what can they do in terms of providing value to the customer that they serve?
Well, there's several ways of doing this. To me, the key idea is this concept of knowledge brokerage. Because nowadays, the most of value creation for customers come from bringing them accurate and customized knowledge. Then the question becomes, what knowledge is relevant to my customer? Who possesses that knowledge? How can I gather that knowledge and deliver that knowledge to my customer? And part of it could be knowledge that, as a salesperson, I personally possess. Knowledge about the product. That's a perfect thing. Then it could be some colleagues' knowledge, because probably in my organization, there's someone else, could be technical engineers or service consultant experts who possess some other knowledge. And I don't necessarily need to possess it myself as a salesperson, but what I need to do is to find out who in my organization knows that those things that are relevant to my customers. A third source of knowledge, in addition to myself and my colleagues, could be partners. Because usually in an ecosystem of a company, there could be partners that possess some knowledge, which can be again delivered to customers. And then if you think about it, a fourth source of knowledge are other customers. Because the funny thing is usually a single salesperson could know more customers than one of his or her customer himself. So if I sell, I don't know, coffee to a bar, for example, my counterpart is a bar owner. Now, what knowledge is relevant to that bar owner? It could be knowledge about managing his or her business, which is a bar outlet, a store, right? Now as a salesperson, I will probably be in contact with 100 bar owners, right? And I see every day what they do in their store, and everything they do in their store, which increases the profit and the business of that coffee store, that bar, is potentially a good idea for someone else. And I'm pretty sure that every bar owner in the world, they don't have the chance to interact with 100 other bar owners as a salesperson does. So you see what I mean? The fact is that every salesperson has a potential to bring some knowledge, even from customer to customer, obviously to the extent that they don't compete one with another. But the idea is, if they really are insight finders, they can generate insights on everything that matters to the customer, not necessarily the product they sell, but the business of the customer. They become customer business expert. So what is the best way to manage a bar? And there's basically an unlimited set of ideas and that can be brought there, right? And there simply does not exist a degree in barology. Nobody's thought about how to manage a bar, if you think about it. And the same thing is true for most businesses in the world. So that's this is the essence of knowledge brokerage, when you can bring relevant knowledge to your customer. But to do this, you really need to figure out what knowledge is relevant to your customer. And this depends industry by industry on the customer business model. If we talk about B2B settings, business to business settings, I mean, when your customer manage a business, like a case of the bar, for example, or a distributor or a company, whenever this is the case. And if it is an individual person, that's exactly the same thing. Think about selling an insurance policy. Again, you need to figure out what could be value for my customer. And usually that could be product related to what you sell, but it could be everything else. So value is very subjective, it's very dynamic, it's very multidimensional. And there's almost an unlimited set of value drivers, customer by customer. And you can try to detect them through market research, but you will never do this individually with market research. So the salesperson is the adapter that can turn a general idea of what value is or could be from your company into an individual customized value proposition, which is crafted around the needs and preferences of exactly that specific individual. But this implies a lot of ability in terms of observation. You need to be a very good observer. You need to be a very good listener. You need to ask the right question. The more you're genuine interest in what matters to your customer, the more you are in a position where you can drive any innovative ideas in his or her direction, which is exactly what they expect from you. This is exactly the essence of what value is or could be in selling.
Do you have any advice on how to ask the right questions? How can you practice that? So if you've never been in sales, or you just want to start, or you are an entrepreneur and you have to engage, you have to do the selling part, how can you ask the right questions?
I think we can all train ourselves on this, if you think about it, because this is why selling is so fascinating, because selling has to do basically mainly with interpersonal communication, and we all have the interpersonal communication practices every day with the girlfriend, the boyfriend, the father, the son, whoever, right? And so I think that training ourselves to ask more questions, to listen to others, and trying to speak less and listen more is a first fundamental thing, which is, I think we don't live in a society that stimulates us very much to do this. And especially with social media, and we tend to talk to and to listen to others, to have interpersonal communication less and less. But exactly because this is the trend, the more we can do it, the more we build a relatively scarce and limited talent, which I think is fundamental. So one key thing is try to ask people what they think, ask people how they feel, ask people to tell something about them, because creating some preliminary, sharing some interpersonal information creates a precondition for them talking about maybe business needs. So you always have to keep in mind this parallel pathway, right? On the one side, there's the interpersonal, which is always a little bit risky, because if you invade someone else's privacy, you ask too much, maybe you may look, this is also very culturally sensitive, largely depends on the culture. What I do in Italy could necessarily be appropriate in Croatia. What I do in northern Italy is completely different from what is accepted in southern Italy, and I'm sure it's the same in Croatia. So this is cultural sensitivity, and you train ourselves to the extent that you can really develop an ability to ask open questions. So if someone tells you keep asking why. If someone tells you, well, how are you? I'm fine. What do you mean by fine? So let's ask people to specify what they mean. Because yes, no will hardly help you make some progress in knowing someone else. So there's a lot of tricks in there or techniques for raising things. And I think the more we ask why, or I'm interested, could you please tell me something more about it? Because I'm really curious. It's not just about asking questions. It's also about everything we do is simply by, if I look you, we all realize if someone is genuinely listening to us, if they really have shown some interest, or if they do it just because they're
faking it,
right? So first of all, yes, exactly. So first of all, is we really need to be genuinely curious. That's a nice thing. Curiosity. There's some research showing that curiosity is a key precondition for being successful in sales. It could be also true for other jobs, but in sales, being curious is very important. So train yourself to be curious. It's not only about asking questions to someone else. It starts from asking questions to ourselves. So put yourself in a situation where every day you try to do something new. Every day you try to learn something new. And because this will train you to be more interested in things in general. And then it will become natural to be interested in someone else. Because it will be, you become curious on everything. And so the way to do this, well, there's a lot of, again, there's no real right or wrong thing. It really depends on, first of all, understanding who is in front of you. That's a key thing. first of all, knowing yourself, so understanding your own way of communicating, and observing yourself in the mirror is really interesting. It's an interesting exercise. And even now with this technology mediated communication, you can observe yourself more and maybe video record yourself and then see how you relate to others. And that's also an important way of training yourself. And then in understanding who's in front of you, what kind of people, because there is no single best way to relate to other. It depends on who's in front of you, and understanding all the visual cues that someone is sending to you is something that is relevant, and we can all train ourselves on this.